It's going to be commentary for chapter 50 of my book, Metadimensional, which you can find on Kindle, listen to for free as an audiobook. Links are in the description. Chapter 50 is called Science Fictions. So in the commentary of the previous chapter, and already I've been trying to get you to, if you've been listening, to get you to comprehend that this state of like asking yourself whether this theory is true or not, that's understandable. I respect it. It's fine. You can think it's not true. I don't know what's your argument, but you can think it's not true. You can believe that. Can go with that to the bank. I don't care. But you have to also start thinking about, insofar as you are not able to prove that this theory is wrong, you need to start thinking about what if it's true. Like you can choose to. You can ignore this if you don't want to think about it. But if you understand it, you have to start thinking, okay, so maybe it's true. What does that mean? What does it mean that it's true first? Like, well, the first thing, well, there are many things, but one of the things that it means is that everything that you know about your current state, the state of reality as you know it right now, is not because this is how it came to be. Like, to some extent it is. I mean, it's not just chaos, like reality emerges out of no prior reason. I'm not arguing that at all. But it doesn't need to have happened the way you think or the way the evidence shows. That's just part of the theory. You have to accept that. That's okay. That's just a revisionism of the history, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when you're trying to analyze what's worth your, what's a good thing, what's a bad thing based on history. You shouldn't have to depend on that to determine it. Like, you have to have the ability to decide whether something is good or bad based on the present, not based on a story that you tell yourself and you cannot prove that it is still the case, or if it was ever the case, because you cannot prove anything, because the reality we perceive is just just the current objective subject we reflect on, that our shared wakeful union is reflecting, exhibiting. And well, of course, yes, I'm not saying that everything is possible, but more things are possible than you'd think, than you'd accept, if you don't understand, if you don't assume that the theory is true, if you don't assume that experience is fundamental. And one candidate that needs reevaluation is science, and technology that it brought us, and everything that is related to science. I mean, it sure does seem like it brings us lots of stuff that we want, most significantly health, and wealth, and food, and all this great stuff that we need now to survive. But there is a process that science involves, and the scientific method it promotes, and it is a process of getting agreement and proving that you cannot differ from the agreement, like to getting a consensus that is binding to everybody, which is a great thing if there was one objective truth that the science was trying to discover. But it's a bit of a problem when there is not, because when there isn't one such truth, then what happens is that science basically drags us to a specific kind of realities where it is true. And it's useful when it's useful, but when it's not useful, well, you don't know what the other options are. A reality where you don't need the laws of physics to mobilize the heavens or objects in space. Like in your dreams, you don't need science to mobilize the things you perceive in your dreams, right? Or in hallucinations. That their science doesn't do anything, and things somehow work. Sometimes better than the wakeful life, sometimes worse than the wakeful life, sometimes just different. But you don't need science. There is no science in dreams. In the dream world, there is no science that makes things happen. So you have to look at what science gives you, and not because it says it delivered you from bad stuff. That bad stuff might never have happened if it's not it's a wakeful history. It's not an experiential history. It could be. It could be that everything that we know about history is exactly as it happened. But it doesn't have to be. And if you're gonna evaluate what you have right now, you should evaluate also the possibility that that history is not true. It's not that science brought us great things. It's that before science, before we developed our science, we had the same capacities but without science. That could be possible. We have the same capacity, like it was more magical, if you want. I mean, you have to consider, just like in dreams, it's more magical. Now, I'm not saying this is true, but you have to consider that possibility. And then you look at science, and what does science give you? If you just ignore everything you know about history, just look at the present, because I'm not arguing against that. So it lets you live longer, which is great. I'm much older than I think I would have been without science, and I don't want to die. But if the theory is true, then my worry of death is it's because I don't know that I don't have the certainty that I will persist to exist after my death, but I will, according to this theory. If this theory is true, then it's true. Then everything that science gives me is just the ability to live as an old man. And an old man versus to live as a young man, I don't know. What's better? Because I'm not gonna, according to this theory, I'm not gonna disappear. My experience will not disappear either way. So it's just my preference. And you'd think that science is like a way to explore, to explore your potential. But being a scientist is being very agreeable. You have to work with the system. Like, this is a difficult thing for a person who has higher aspirations and a lot of imagination, let's say. It's not an ideal place for someone to explore their desires. It's not. Of course, it's worse that it's much worse to be in a religious society that you can't do what you want, and science has freed us from that according to the history. But you can't trust the history. So the question is: are you feeling liberated by medicine and by the technology you have? Do you feel experientially liberated to do what you want? Because if not, then it just needs a reevaluation. Now I'm going back again and saying, I don't know if any of this is true, but the question needs to be raised, and it needs to be answered such that you'd have a science that, even if the theory is true, it makes sense to partake in it. Even if we can become someone else like that, these are parts of the theory, then still this science makes sense. The science that we're going to do will make sense. Whether that will give us the exact same science we have right now, maybe. Possibly. Probably. But not necessarily.